Fern, reporter and editor. She is the author of several well-known children's books, including 16 Words, William Carlos Williams and the Red Wheelbarrow, and Beautiful Noise, the music of John Gage, which won the Golden Kite Honor Award. Kate lives in Wellesley, Massachusetts with her family and her rescue dog, Rory. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thanks for coming here, and we're just so lucky to have such a wonderful bookstore here in town. And lovely to be in this area of the country where there are many independent bookstores. So first I wanted to thank you for being here, and I wanted to recognize and honor the librarians and educators who are here. Could you either stand up or wave your arms, because there are many of you here. Okay. I also want to recognize the people who bring stories into the world. There are many published authors here and many writers who are attempting to get published, and they will if they keep going. So let's recognize those writers who are here. Wave, please, if you're a writer. Come on, don't be shy. Come on. Oh, I see more. Okay. Anyways, we're super lucky because we also should recognize book designers, book editors, booksellers, because these are the people who bring books to readers. And we need books. We need books of all kinds. And I'm just so proud to be part of this amazing group of people who bring stories to young readers. So I have a question for you. If you have read Where the Red Fern Grows, could you please raise your hand? Okay. If you cried while reading Where the Red Fern Grows, would you please raise your hand? Okay, so you are not alone. When Wilson Rawls published a serial version of Where the Red Fern Grows in the Saturday Evening Post, the week after the serial ended, 129 letters came in praising the serial. And of those, 27 letter writers confessed that they had cried at the end. And one fourth grader wrote that his teacher had read the book to his class. And he said, we all cried at the end of the book, at the last part. And then he said, I like the last part best. So I think that's an interesting thought, because if you're worried about bringing difficult topics to your children, please understand that when introduced properly, they can understand these topics, and they reflect real life. And my dear former elementary school principal, Gail Vanasek, read the book to her grandchild a couple of weeks ago, and 2 grandchildren, and they both cried, and she felt terrible. And she said, oh, I won't ever read a sad book to you again. And I said, no, we want to read it again. We really loved it. Right? So proving that kids can handle difficult topics when introduced properly. So can we please recognize the readers in the room? Who likes to read books? Do you like to read books, kids?
Totally.
Totally.
All the way.
Excellent.
Like all the way up to 4th grade books.
Very good. I see you have I
Sure.
Survived. Awesome. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about how I came to this story about the author of Where the Red Fern Grows. And it was because of one of my students at Hardy School. So he is an amazing kid. He is a world ninja champion as well, and he is now in his first year of college. So it turns out 7 or so years ago, was that 7? I guess that was when I had my first draft. So maybe before that, he was in the library and he said, Mrs. Rogers, I just read this book and you have to read it. It was so sad that I cried at the end. And I was really embarrassed because I had never read Where the Red Fern Grows. My daughter had read it, and she cried at the end. And we had to do some major therapy afterwards with bibliotherapy. But what she said was, I don't understand how this author could make us love these dogs so much. And then have this sad ending. But so when Paul Woods, my student, told me about his experience with the book, I took the book home that afternoon and I read it. And I could not believe the beautiful words that Wilson Rawls used and the emotion that was part of every line in the story. And then I got to the end of the book, and there were maybe 6 lines of biographical information, including that he had no access to books as a child until he was a teen. And I thought, well, how did he become this beautiful writer? He had no education, no access to books. So that's what spurred me to find out more. And you can find out more too, because there is narration of him speaking to teachers and librarians about his life story. So that was my first point of research for this book. However, I learned that Wilson Rawls was a true storyteller, and not all of that information was exactly true. So I had to use my reporting skills to find out more, my librarian research skills. Thank you, newspapers.com. Thank you, Public Records, to help me tell the story. And so let me read it with you. Woody's words, Woodrow Wilson Rawls, and Where the Red Fern Grows, by me, and beautifully illustrated by Susan Reagan. I just want to dive into this book because the illustrations are so gorgeous. What do you think? Should I sit down? Would that be better for you? Okay, I'm not really used to sitting down, but I will. Okay. And on this title page, there's a beautiful illustration of a hunting hound. This one is called a blue-tick hound. And the words say, I don't care how long it takes me or what I have to do. Someday in my life, I will write a book, and it will be a dog story. It's published by Caukins Creek and the amazing editor Carolyn Yoder, who I have admired for some time, and I was astounded when she purchased this book. For young Woody Rawls, school was the farm near Scraper, Oklahoma, where he grew up in the early 1900s. It was the river where he fished, the woods where he hunted, and the fields he helped harvest. All of it was Cherokee land set aside for Woody's ancestors after they were forced to leave their homelands. Woody wore homemade clothes and went barefoot. He didn't have much, but he had stories to tell. And he said, about the only difference between my life and that of any other country boy was that I was always telling stories. I don't care how long it takes me or what I have to do. Someday in my life, I will write a book and it will be a dog story. The winter after Woody and Sophie married, it was too cold to work in construction, and Woody grew anxious. Sophie had a good paying job, but what could he do until spring? When Sophie asked him what was wrong, Woody decided to trust her with his deepest wish. Sophie didn't hesitate. She believed in him. She didn't care that Woody's writing was full of mistakes or that he put an E at the end of almost every word. She told him she'd support both of them while Woody spent a year writing. I told my wife my terrible secret. I told her I had this great and awful desire to write. Sophie Rawls said that Woody always had a story to tell. And Woody's nephew also said that he was a true storyteller, and that's why he fudged some of his details in his telling. But you can listen to him telling his life story. It's on the internet. If you just Google Wilson Rawls, Dreams Can Come True, you will find it. And one of the things Woody did was he wanted to inspire other people to write their stories, I think because of his own struggle. And honestly, that's why I write too, because I feel like I want to inspire people to create something meaningful to them. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
It's a children's book because I feel you wrote it for me. I really am inspired. So
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Well, picture books are for everyone. There's so much meaning in picture books, and authors, we picture book authors put so much into them. We are distilling gigantic ideas into 32 or 40 pages, and it's a wonderful thing to do. It's wonderful to bring stories to readers, and it's wonderful to open minds with our stories. So do not give up. I almost gave up, and I'm glad I did not. Questions?
How did he learn to read and write?
So his mother and grandmother were educated at a Cherokee school for women in Tahlequah, and so she taught him, but they really had no books. So he was able to use the skills his mother taught him when they moved to the town of Tahlequah. And he was determined. He fell in love with the written word, with stories. And so when you do that, nothing is going to stop you except yourself, right? So, yes. So he says in his audio that she had chalkboards for each of the children in the family and taught them how to read.